May 1097. Beyond the shimmering heat of the Anatolian plains, Robert of Normandy leads his vanguard toward the ancient walls. Beside him, Tancred grips his shield, their eyes fixed on the towering fortification that guards the city. The air hangs heavy with anticipation. Within the stone heart of the citadel, Governor Cotius braces against the sun-baked merlons. His weathered gaze sweeps the horizon, tracking the relentless advance of the Frankish host. A bronze horn rests against his chest, a silent promise of the defense to come. On the glassy waters of Lake Ascanius, the imperial fleet cuts a silent path toward the shore. Admiral Konstantinos raises his bronze staff, acknowledging the distant banners. The Byzantine navy and the Frankish Crusade move as one, bound by a fragile and calculated alliance. The vanguard presses forward, boots driving dust into the dry earth. Robert points sharply toward the base of the walls, directing the colossal wooden siege towers that groan along the packed tracks. Every step brings the Frankish war machine closer to the ancient stone. June arrives with heavier heat. At the timber base of the towering engine, Robert stands watch as Norman guards strain against the iron-bound wheels. The massive structure inches forward, a wooden leviathan destined to bridge the gap between the attackers and the defenders. High above the fray, Robert and Tancred claim the wooden summit. Arrows hiss past their helmets as Turkish marksmen gather on the opposing battlements. The Gilded Cross Standard flutters just beyond their line of sight, a silent beacon guiding their relentless assault. On the ramparts, Cotius watches the wooden giant rise, his jaw tightening against the relentless barrage. He turns his head toward the southern plains, where dust clouds herald the arrival of the Seljuk relief force. The tide of war is about to shift. Across the sun-scorched southern plains, Malik of the Seljuks raises his slender lance. His cavalry wheels into a synchronized charge, hooves thundering against the packed earth. They ride to strike the Crusader rear, exploiting the very moment the Frankish lines grow thin. Alarms ripple through the rear lines as Robert wheels his mount to face the new threat. Tancred rides to his flank, sword drawn, while reserves scramble into defensive positions. The Crusader host must now split its focus between the ancient walls and the charging. At the center of the maelstrom, Norman ranks lock their wooden shields into an unyielding wall of steel. Robert stands firm, breathing steadily as the Seljuk vanguard crashes against their formation. The earth trembles beneath the impact of hooves and heavy blades. On the flanking ridge, Arslan guides his horse toward the emerging weakness in the Frankish line. His eyes narrow as he spots the fractured shield wall, calculating the precise moment to drive his cavalry through the breach. Victory hangs by a thread. Robert pushes forward through the swirling dust, his blade held in a guarded stance. The enemy formation begins to fracture under the relentless Norman pressure. He watches the faltering ranks, his gaze drifting toward the city gates, where the final breach awaits. Before the heavy timber doors, Cotius feels the weight of defeat settle upon his shoulders. The garrison retreats in disarray as he lowers his sword. With a weary gesture toward the harbor, he acknowledges the inevitable arrival of the imperial fleet. On the weathered stone docks, Emperor Alexios Komnenos strides forward with measured authority. Beside him, Robert watches the imperial banners replace the Frankish ones. The great wooden warships settle into the shallows, completing the quiet transfer of power over the conquered city. In the central plaza, Cotius bows his head as the surrender documents are prepared. Alexios accepts the keys with calm deliberation, his eyes scanning the quiet square. The ancient city passes from Turkish hands to Byzantine control, without a single drawn blade. Back in the Norman encampment, a heavy silence replaces the earlier clamor. Robert stands apart from the murmuring ranks, his expression grim as he watches the imperial garrison take position. The fruits of their bloodshed have been quietly claimed by another. From the high ramparts, Alexios addresses the restless Frankish host below. A herald raises his wooden baton as the emperor gestures toward the treasury stores. He offers a measured share of the spoils, attempting to soothe the wounded pride of his allies. Among the waiting troops, Robert accepts a polished silver chalice with unreadable eyes. Tancred examines a heavy gold cup, but the gleaming metal offers no comfort. The distributed wealth feels hollow against the backdrop of a victory that was never truly theirs. On the lake, Admiral Konstantinos raises his bronze staff one final time. The imperial fleet turns its prows toward the open water, leaving the conquered shore behind. His gaze lingers eastward. Tracking the path, the Crusaders will soon follow into unknown territories. July brings a new season and a new march. Robert rides at the head of the column, his armor dusted with the road ahead. He glances back one last time at the fading Gilded Cross, then turns his gaze toward the eastern horizon.